about Ryan Day up into the playoffs was true.
Oh, not bad. Come on, Kenner. You can do better than that.
To be fair, of all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, Joe Burrow is the least accomplished.
Getting better.
1,000,000%. I 1,000,000% believe that the Dayton Flyers are afraid of the Wright State Raiders. That's why they come up with every excuse in the book not to play them.
There it is. The hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kenner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, we welcome you in live here on a Monday, the Justin Kenner Show presented by Frickers. I hope everybody had a very good Thanksgiving. I hope everybody is not as sick as I am. I am toughing it out here today. The wife is questioning why I'm going into work. Some of my coworkers might be as well, but I made sure to let them know when I walked in the building, back up, give me some space. To be fair, I say that every day. I don't like people, but I was not going to miss today's show. Not going to miss today's show because Ohio teams have made doing sports talk in the state of Ohio fun again. We might have a playoff team in the state of Ohio. Now, and I know we have a college football playoff team in the state of Ohio, but we might have an NFL playoff team. Not the Browns, unfortunately for me, but fortunately for the majority of our listeners, Bengals fans, you ought to be pretty happy. Joe Burrow looked very, very good in his return on Thanksgiving night. And the Bengals, thanks to, of course, the Ravens free-falling and the Steelers just doing what the Steelers do heading into the final month of the season, the Bengals have a shot. And we're going to get into that coming up around the corner. But I did want to talk about, well, it was an easy one to talk about today, Ohio State, Michigan. And for the last 4 years, I've had to crack the mic the day after the Ohio State-Michigan game, or the first show, I should say, after the Ohio State-Michigan game, and have to crack the mic and talk about Ryan Day. And talk about Ryan Day, you know, I get tired of hearing Ryan Day talk about the rivalry because it doesn't feel believable from his perspective. When I hear Ryan Day talk about how much he, despises Michigan, this, that, and the other, when he first got to Ohio State, I felt like he was just, hey, if you're going to be the head coach of Ohio State, you have to say certain things. You have to pretend to feel a certain way. Some don't have to pretend. Some truly feel it, all right? And I think Urban Meyer truly despised Michigan. Jim Tressel truly despised it. But if you're not from here, as I've been told, all right, I got called out on this last week. I'm from El Paso, Texas, so of course I don't get it, according to some. But there's some that don't get it. So, and I always say this too, when you're putting a roster together, you could explain the rivalry to the player. They could understand it from what you're telling them. But until they truly feel it, until they truly experience it, I don't think anyone's going to truly get it. And the one thing that we knew, which was very odd about this roster for Ohio State, because they did lose a lot of guys to the NFL, but there were, not one single player on that Ohio State roster had beaten Michigan. Not one single player on that Ohio State roster has a pair of gold pants. Way more players had something that's way more difficult to do than beating Michigan, and that's winning a national championship. Way more players had a national championship ring than gold pants. That's just the nature of this. But for years, all I felt was when Ryan Day would talk about the rivalry, you sound like you're just reading off a prompt or you're reading off bullet points that were provided from you when you got the job. Hey, it's very important. Talk down to Michigan. Talk up the Michigan rivalry, blah, blah, blah. But then after losing a certain amount and getting embarrassed for 4 straight years, there's one thing about Ryan Day that I think is legitimate, is he now gets it. He now truly hates this team. He's hated this team for a while, but truly hates this team now. The humility I did see from Ryan Day after the game, like I thought there was one line that the players kept saying over and over, to go out there, because for years it was about going, you can't stand Michigan, you got to respect the rivalry, this, that, and the other, but it was always about Michigan, Michigan, Michigan. And I always felt Ryan Day's biggest mistake was always making it about Michigan. Ryan Day's biggest mistake was never making it about the task at hand, which is Michigan is just one other team that you have to get through to go on to win a national championship. And there's one line that the players kept saying in the postgame and in the fallout from the win over Michigan. Ohio State, when the players started to believe that, hey, we're not playing for the hate for that team up north, we're playing for the love of the guy next to us, it totally changed how the Ohio State Buckeyes approach this rivalry. Because when you only start reacting and playing and doing things, preparing out of hate, you're not preparing for the right reasons. You're not preparing in the right way, and you're letting emotion get the best of you instead of just sticking to what Ohio State has been since week 1 when they beat Texas. That's the one thing that Ohio State, regardless of the change at quarterback, obviously 2 new running backs, a lot of new pieces on on defense after losing them to the NFL. When you look at the 4 games post Michigan last year and you look at the 12 games up to this point, all right, 16 straight games now Ohio State has won. It has not been about the opponent. It's not, oh, we're playing Tennessee. It's, oh, no, what do we got to do to beat Tennessee? What do we got to do to beat a team that beat us earlier in the season in Oregon in the Rose Bowl? What do we got to do to beat Texas? What do we got to do to beat Notre Dame in the national championship? What do we got to do to beat Texas again? When Ohio State stopped doing the whole, oh, we just hate Michigan, we hate Michigan, and it's, oh, well, we're not going to play for the hate of our rival, but for the glove of the guy next to us, then all of a sudden Ohio State looks like, oh, yeah, they're the more mature program. They look like they know more of what the hell they are, and that is a national championship winning program. They were a national championship winning program heading into the Michigan game last year, but they went away from what they were, of who they were. They wanted to not just beat Michigan, but beat them a certain way. Ryan Day made me a little nervous because the first couple plays of this game, they dropped back, and they're just throwing it deep. Julian saying there was an interception early, and it's like, man, now they're completely going away from the run game and just going to try to throw it down their throats, but it didn't matter. Once Ohio State got settled in, once they got locked in, they looked like the team that they were from week 1 against Texas, just much more improved. They look like the number 1 team in the country. They look like the superior program, and they look like a team that is poised to potentially go on to win another second straight national championship. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Let's see. Ron Howard on Facebook. By the way, we're live on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page. Ron Howard said, guard the M. Yeah, by the way, I might be in the minority on this. I loved when Michigan planted the flag in Columbus last year. And when I say I loved it, I mean, I didn't love it as in go blue. I just mean I love that type of stuff in a rivalry. I thought it was very soft of Ohio State to have state legislators coming out and trying to make it a crime to plant a flag. I mean, all of that stuff was just, PR stunts and all this, that, and the other. But I thought it was soft of Ohio State and soft of others. And I thought good for Michigan and good for Sawyer. I'm wearing the shirt today, the Scoop and Sawyer shirt, but good for Sawyer for wanting to rip off anyone's face that wanted to do that or tried to do that. I love that. That's actually, when people talk about the rivalry doesn't feel as big, the rivalry feels big when you got moments like that. The rivalry felt big on Saturday when you're in the big house, you see a wall of Ohio State white jerseys sitting up as they're sitting and celebrating with their fans, and then you see a wall of Michigan players making sure that you're not going to come in and plant the flag. Everyone was making fun of Michigan for that. I love that they did that. And I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, Ohio State, they didn't, they're above that. There's no way they were going to do that. Trust me, they had something planned. It just didn't work out. And I love that. I mean, so many people overreacted to that. That's just so messy of Michigan. I loved what Michigan did last year. Anytime you can add a layer to dislike your rival, I love it. And and then it goes above and beyond just winning. You act like they went and vandalized their locker rooms. You know what I mean? Or slashed their tires. You know what I mean? Or ran their bus off the road. That's the way people reacted to that last year. And I just thought, you guys, you need to settle down. Planting the flag, I thought was hilarious. I thought it was funny when Baker Mayfield did it years ago, and that was before I became a fan of his when he got drafted by Cleveland moons ago. But I would have loved it if, everyone out there that said, I did the show with Keith Byers yesterday. Keith was like, we don't do that. We're above that. No, Keith, come on. You mean to tell me, Keith, you wouldn't have loved to take a flag and take it out to the center of the Michigan field in the big house and plant an Ohio State flag? Come on. No one thinks, I don't think that's dirty. I think I would have loved that. I would have loved that. But either way, Ohio State took care of business. They did exactly what they were supposed to, 27-9. They trailed at the end of the first quarter, 6-3. They put up 17-9 lead at the half, and then just needed 10 more points, and the defense did the rest in the second. Michigan not being able to score a touchdown. The Bryce Underwood thing is wild to me. I was nervous about this game just because I'm like, when you have a high-level quarterback, you're going to have a shot. And Michigan has a shot for a lot of reasons, but I know there's a lot of deficiencies with them as well. But Bryce Underwood, the problem with him, he looks like the exact same quarterback in week 12 as what he did back in week 1 when he debuted. And what I love about Ohio State is the way that they developed this team and the way this coaching staff has developed this team as the season has gone on. You look at Julian Sayin, who was afraid of his own shadow in week 1 against Texas, to throwing the ball all over the field against Michigan, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns to 3 different Ohio State receivers. I mean, that's consistency right there. Something else that Keith Byers pointed out yesterday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different Ohio State wide receivers or pass catchers caught a ball yesterday. Or Saturday. And not just that 6 different Buckeyes caught a pass on Saturday, 6 different Buckeyes all had more than 1 catch. All 6 Buckeyes that caught a pass on Saturday had at least 2 catches. Carnell Tate, 5. We didn't even know he was going to play. 5 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown. Bo Jackson, who was great on the ground. I mean, you look at the fact that he had over 100, almost 160 total yards offense on the day. Bo Jackson, he ran the ball, 22 carries for 117 yards, averaging about 5.5 yards a carry, and then also caught 4 passes for 49 yards as well. All of them 10 yards or longer, by the way. He was able to, break them out for a first down every time. Jeremiah Smith, 3 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown on his birthday. Max Clare, 3 catches, 20 yards. Brandon Ennis, 2 catches for 12 yards and a touchdown. I love, I don't care who shows up and shows out in a rivalry game like that. I don't care who makes plays. Just go out there, make a play, and put your team in position to win. But it's even cooler when the star players that led you to this undefeated record, that have made you the number 1 team in the country all year, the star players that got you there also performed at a high level. Julian Sayin was phenomenal. Bo Jackson was fantastic. Bo Jackson didn't even play in week 1 against Texas. And then, of course, your usual cast of characters in Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, and, Ennis, who, in my eyes, has underachieved at Ohio State, but Brandon Ennis has still been pretty good. Brandon Ennis, I think, will always be looked at as a guy that has underachieved during his time at Ohio State. But, for him to come out and perform against that team up north on the road, catch a touchdown, 3 touchdowns on the season, none bigger than the one he had against Michigan. He never really broke out the way we expected him to. But, man, oh, man, he showed up when the Buckeyes needed him the most over the weekend. What a performance there. All right, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Ohio State, 27, Michigan, 9. And now Ohio State turns their attention towards the Big Ten Championship. Ohio State last year won a national championship with the 4th straight loss to Michigan. They didn't even get to the Big Ten championship game. Ohio State just beats Michigan. They have a chance to win a Big Ten title on Saturday, and maybe they can get all 3 of their ultimate goals accomplished this season. Can they get it done against the number 2 undefeated Indiana Hoosiers? That's what we're going to talk about when we come back. That's the question I have for you. Do you feel that Hoosiers, are we really building up? Does this feel like a legit 1 versus 2 on Saturday? This is a big deal. 1 versus 2, 2 undefeated teams, a Big Ten championship on the line. We may not even get 1 versus 2 in the national title game. How much do you fear the Indiana Hoosiers? We'll talk about that when we come back. More of the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers next. All right, and we are back. I'm Justin Kinner with you here, 1410 ESPN Radio. Don't feel the best today, so I'm toughing this show out, but happy to be with you. Yeah, I told you the wife got on me. She goes, you do not need to be going into work. I'm like, oh, it's fine. Ohio State just took care of business against Michigan for the first time in 4 years, and they're in the Big Ten championship game. We got a big battle of 1 versus 2, a couple 12-0 teams going head-to-head in the Big Ten championship game coming up on Saturday night. I just wanted to kick off the show this week, right? So, got some weather coming in tomorrow, some snow. Hope everyone pays attention to that. Be weather aware, as they always like to say. But nonetheless, Ohio State, 27-9, the final over Michigan at the Big House over the weekend. Ohio State finishes the regular season 12-0, 9-0 in the Big Ten. Defending national champions, of course, the defending reigning national champions from last year, and they're looking to keep it going. Here this season. Like the thing is, last year I felt something was off. Like last year they should have. I think the gap between Ohio State and Michigan last year was wider than this year. But the difference is the Ohio State actually went out there and performed the way that they should. Last year they were 21-point favorites. Something didn't feel right. I felt a little uneasy about the matchup. I think a lot of Buckeye fans did. That wasn't the case. Even when Ohio State got down 3-0, 6-0, it just. Even when he threw the interception, talking about Julian saying, I never really felt like they were going to lose this game. There was like a weird, not weird, it's a good thing. There is a poise and a confidence about this team, and they're just a completely different program, and there's a completely different vibe about them right now. It's that same confidence that the Nick Saban Alabama dynasty had for a bit, and I do think that this team has all the makings of what could potentially be a dynasty because Julian saying Jeremiah Smith are going to be back next year. Bo Jackson's only a freshman. And again, is that overconfidence? Yes, because players could be plucked left and right. Other programs get plucked. I'm not saying Ohio State doesn't, but I don't think there's many players on this Buckeye team. When you can go to Ohio State, compete for a national championship, be the number 1 team in the country, and get all the money and NIL in the world, outside of personal matters, there's really no reason to be worried about losing a Jeremiah Smith or, a Julian Sain or anything like that. So we'll see what ultimately happens. But for Ohio State to be put in that dynasty category, winning another national championship is going to be key, and they're going to have a very good chance of doing that. But first, before we can talk about winning national championships, you got to talk about winning a Big Ten championship, something that Ohio State, while losing to Michigan for 4 straight years, also they haven't done that during that stretch of time. They opened up the season with a 14-7 win at the Shoe against, at the time, the number 1 team in the country in the Texas Longhorns, and they closed it out with a regular season with a win on the road at the Big House at Michigan, 27-9. Now, before the playoff gets here, they do have to play an additional game in the Big Ten championship. I don't know why I've always been anti-conference championships. Like, I feel like you battle Aussie. This is why I don't like non-conference matchups. I feel like these conferences are too big as it is. I feel like we shouldn't be talking about, like, we should never be talking about the weak teams that these teams schedule. We shouldn't be talking about the horrific teams that Indiana schedules on the non-con. If you guys remember, the season started with Indiana. A lot of people didn't want to give Indiana too much respect at the beginning of the season because Curt Cignetti started the season taking a shot at the SEC. Curt Cignetti, started the season defending their scheduling philosophy. And if you looked at it, they opened up the season playing Old Dominion. They started the season playing Kennesaw State, Indiana State. They started the season 3-0. Nobody wanted to give them the respect. Then they played a top 10 team in Illinois, and they routed Illinois 63-10. Started to get people's attention. A week later, didn't look as dominant. They get a 20-15 win over Iowa on the road. And then where they got everyone's attention, they go on the road against, at the time, the number 3 team in the country in the Oregon Ducks, and they get another double-digit win against a top 10 opponent. They played 2 top 10 teams this year and won by a combined 70 points. And then Indiana's on everybody's radar. But you look at these conference championships, and it's like, you have how many teams in the Big Ten now? And Indiana's playing Old Dominion, Ohio State's playing Ohio, and playing, all these pointless teams and all this. It should just be all conference games from week 1 all the way through. Crown a conference champion based on who has the best record. Put on all your dumb little tiebreakers. I love that Ohio State and Indiana are playing on Saturday. I hate that they have to play an additional game. they have to play an additional game. Ohio State, Indiana have already proven they're the top two teams in the country. Now, what happens if Indiana goes and gets beat or Ohio State gets beat? They better not. I mean, they're going to flip-flop, and I guess Indiana would be the one team, and Ohio State would be number two, or vice versa, or Ohio State stays at number one. But they shouldn't even be in that position where they have to risk losing their seat after, again, a 12-0 regular season run. They shouldn't have to worry about losing that. They shouldn't have to worry about losing, players due to injury. While teams like Notre Dame sit at home and do absolutely nothing like they do every single year. I can't stand that. No, this is the time of year where I start to get infuriated by the Notre Dame talk. Man, they deserve to be in the playoff. They should be playing in the conference championship then. But they sit out. They get the easy work. I love the fact that Ohio State wasn't in the conference championship the last couple of years. Extra weeks rest. Extra week to get mentally right, physically right. So I love the showdown. I love number one versus number two. I love undefeated Ohio State against, undefeated Indiana. Kurt Cinetti against Ryan Day. I love this matchup. I just hate that these two teams have to play each other coming up this Saturday. This should potentially be a national championship matchup. And maybe it very well will be. Maybe this is the welcome to college football season for Indiana. They came on the scene last year. It had almost a Cinderella-type feel to it. This year, it's, oh, man, maybe they're not a Cinderella team. Maybe they're the real deal. Well, they're the number two team in the country. They're 12-0, and they have a chance to prove it against Ohio State on Saturday. And maybe, just maybe, this isn't the only time that they're going to play this season. Maybe this could be a national championship preview. Maybe the Big Ten championship is a national championship preview when it's all said and done. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. So we'll ultimately see what goes down on Saturday. I think, well, let's see what this line is, too, because I think I saw Ohio State was a 5.5-point favorite, which I think is big for Indiana. I mean, Ohio State, Indiana, 1 versus 2, battle of undefeateds on Saturday night, 8 o'clock. Ohio State is a 5.5-point favorite in the Big Ten championship game. 5.5-point favorite. Vegas respects the hell out of Indiana. Do you respect the hell out of Indiana? Do you fear Indiana? Do you think that Kurt Cinetti in Indiana can make some noise on Saturday? And, that's the thing. It's weird seeing Indiana in this spot. If it's Ohio State versus Penn State or Ohio State versus Oregon or USC in the Big Ten championship game, that looks the part. It is still weird seeing Indiana in this prime spot. And Indiana has so much to prove on Saturday, and not in a bad way. I think they've proven a lot already. But man, oh man, I think there's still a lot of people, myself included, that look at them and say they've had 2 losses in 2 years. One against Ohio State, one against Notre Dame. And both teams were in the national championship last year. They're undefeated this season. I'm just very curious to see what happens on Saturday. Part of me wants to see Indiana play well. I want to see Ohio State win. I want to see a legit 1 versus 2 showdown on Saturday. I want to see a legit 1 versus 2 battle on Saturday in the Big Ten championship. I mean, it sounds crazy. It's not that I don't want to see Ohio State blow them out, but I want to believe that the Big Ten has another perennial power in this conference, because all it is proven is Oregon's very, very good. There's still a gap between them and Ohio State. Penn State still just looking for their own identity. Michigan is not the same since they've stopped cheating. USC is still just looking to figure out who the heck they are. The Big Ten needs Indiana to be legit. And whether you want to admit it or not, Ohio State needs Indiana to be legit as well, because Ohio State moving forward are separating themselves from this conference. They need a team that they could circle on that schedule and say, oh yeah, that's our game every year, to show everybody that, yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Let's go to Adam. Adam, thanks for holding, sir. You're on live.
Thanks for taking my call. I just want to piggyback on what you were saying there. I totally agree. I think Indiana needs to play well. I want them to play well against Ohio State this week. And I think it's mostly for this is what college football is going to look like now from a NIL perspective. Indiana, they're not the one diving into how LSU did with their recent head coaching hire, committing amount of dollars to NIL, but you can build a program like Indiana is clearly doing right now with how NIL and transfer market has showed up. So this only benefits the Big Ten. Obviously, this benefits the playoff and how games are going to be competitive down the road. So that's how I see that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want Ohio State to lose, but I hope what we legitimately get on Saturday is a 1 versus 2. I mean, I know it's 1 versus 2, but I mean, we fell for this last year when we saw a top 5 showdown between Ohio State and Indiana didn't look like a legit top 5 team in the country. So maybe that'll look different on Saturday. As far as that's concerned. So I know
I agree. I wouldn't be upset though. Like when Cardell Jones played and we blew out Wisconsin, what was that, by like 32 or 33? Like I would get just as much enjoyment out of that as like a 27-24 back and forth game. So appreciate the time as always. Love the show.
Appreciate you, Adam. Thank you. And he brings up that blowout that, Cardell Jones and company had against, at the time it was Wisconsin. That was the inaugural 4-team college football playoff season. Winning that Big Ten championship in 2014, that's not why they made the playoff. They made the playoff because they blew the doors off Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. That was kind of that, to get the committee's attention more than anything else. Plus, the committee was trying to prove a point to the Big 12 about getting a conference championship game, all while they could just spend the next couple of years of not caring about a conference championship game. But nonetheless. Sorry, guys, I'm struggling. I'm not feeling the best today, so I'm glad to be with you. Keep taking your calls, 937-518-1410. Ohio State, Indiana on Saturday. Is Indiana legit? Are they here to actually stay? That's the big question. I threw these questions out last year. I didn't believe they were here to stay. Here we are a year later, and they're better, and they're bigger and stronger and faster and all that stuff than what they were a year ago. They're undefeated. They're the number 2 team in the country, and they're only a 5.5-point dog in what I don't want to say it's a home game. It's in their state, but, Ohio State. I can't wait for this game on Saturday. I cannot wait for this game on Saturday. It's a big game, yes, for the Big Ten because it's their conference championship, but also it's a chance for Indiana to prove that, this isn't just a little Cinderella run. We're here to stay, no doubt about it. 937-518-1410, the Justin Kinder Show presented by Frickers. We'll take more of your calls, and I'll get to more of your comments in the chat when we come back. Head to the Justin Kinder Show Facebook page or ESPN Dayton's YouTube channel. You could jump in the chat there, and I'll react to your comments when we come back. Justin Kinner back with you here, 1410 ESPN Radio. Happy Monday. Ohio State takes care of business over the weekend, beating Michigan, finishing the season undefeated at 12-0. They'll now turn their attention towards the Big Ten championship. They're 5.5-point favorites as they take on the number 2 team in the country, also undefeated at 12-0, in the Indiana Hoosiers. That is at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. It's an 8 o'clock kickoff on Fox. And the question I have is, I know on paper it's 1 versus 2, but we also saw Ohio State and Indiana go head-to-head last year in a top 5 showdown. And we didn't believe that Indiana was a top 5 team in the country last year. And they proved that to be the case. Like, they didn't look like the number 5. They didn't look like a top 5 team in the country last year, despite the number in front of their name. Now they're the number 2 team in the country. They are undefeated. In 2 seasons under Kurt Cignetti, only 2 losses. But they are undefeated. They've taken care of business, and now Vegas has them as a 5.5-point dog in Indianapolis against the Buckeyes in the Big Ten championship. So the question is, do you buy into the Hoosiers? Is this a legit 1 versus 2 showdown? Do you respect and fear the Hoosiers? Nonetheless, we'll talk about that. But, Michigan fan Shaw is here to not lick his wounds a little bit. Shaw's been boring lately. Shaw, what up? I mean, you're supposed to talk smack and all this stuff, and you're doing this annoying, humble thing. It's really off-putting and really boring, to be honest with you. I'm really disappointed in you.
Well, I'll just become a Hoosier fan then. How about that?
I mean, the last time you can't be a Hoosier fan. Last time you were spouting off about them, you dropped the F-bomb. I had to suspend you from the show again.
No, I was fighting against the Hoosiers at that point. So this time I'd be fighting for the Hoosiers. So it's completely different.
Makes sense. But what you got? What you got here on a Monday?
First, I want to congratulate you and all the Buckeyes out there for thoroughly whipping our tail on Saturday. It's about time you finally decided to show up in the rivalry for the first time in 4 years. Glad that happened for you.
Yeah, it helps when it's just a fair football game and you don't have the opponent cheating and all that stuff too. That helps.
I mean, I guess there was the whole thing of the 22-point favorite last year, and
no, that was a legit ass whooping. Ohio State deserved that loss. Deserved that loss, but the ones before that, all asterisks, all before those, and even into last year. I mean,
right. Well, I mean, yeah, all asterisks all the time. I know. I get it.
Not all the time, just those years that you were cheating, that you got caught cheating.
Yeah,
I don't even think these are opinions. I think that happened, and it happened because you talked about 4 straight years. It was because of the 7 straight years and losing 17 and 19 straight that finally led to Harbaugh saying, if I don't cheat, I'm going to get fired sooner, so I need to just figure something out. I'm just saying it all worked out. But you were calling in to be humble. You said congratulations, so thank you, Shaw. Buckeye fans, they say thank you. They say thank you. OH.
Yeah. They blow. Anyhow, they really don't, though. Is Indiana for real? I don't know. I'll just be 100% honest with that. I don't know. I like what I saw when they played Oregon. I didn't like what I saw when they played Penn State. But like I told you and Keith yesterday, take my Michigan fandom away. This is the game I've been looking forward to all year long. So on that aspect of it, I am kind of excited. If tickets weren't $1,000 to sit at the top of the stadium, I'd probably be going to it. To be brutally honest, I mean, it's a game that I would love to be a part of, to be just sitting there and witness the atmosphere and witness everything. Because I think Indiana will travel a little bit, but Ohio State travels too. I think it will be a legit 50-50 split. To your opinion, do you want a legit 1 versus 2 game? I want, for the Big Ten, I want it to be competitive into the fourth quarter. And whatever happens in the fourth quarter is whatever happens. If Ohio State pulls away by, say, 2 scores and they kind of dominate the fourth quarter, well, I mean, then Ohio State is maybe just that little bit better than Indiana. But that doesn't mean Indiana is so far behind everybody else that they couldn't see them again in the conference and the national championship game. That's what I want. I want to see that Indiana looks the part and can go on the field and on the lines be able to attack Ohio State the way Michigan should have been able to, but they decided they didn't want to. And then offensively, is that secondary as good as what I think they are? Is Caleb Downs him, like I think he's him? Because this is the first passing attack, I think, that Ohio State has faced all season long, and that is including the first game of the year. That is.
No, I'm with you on that real quick. I've said that for years. A lot of times,
you're fine.
There's many years where I felt Ohio State's defensive numbers have always been propped up because they play in the Big Ten. And they're like, oh, man, they're always one of the best passing defenses in the country. And I'm like, well, hold on. You know, the reason that a lot of passing defenses in the SEC never look as good as the passing defenses in the Big Ten is because in the SEC, there's actual quarterback play. And that hasn't been the case in the Big Ten in quite some time. And I thought this year coming in, I thought quarterback play was actually going to be, you know, as good as it's been in a long time in the Big Ten across the board. When you look at Oregon and USC, you know, even Iowa has an improvement at quarterback, not a great quarterback, but improvement. You know, and then you have Michigan with their quarterback coming in. I thought the Big Ten was going to be a very good passing league this year. That has not been the case, especially the opponents that Ohio State has faced. And I agree with you about Texas. They may be better now, but when they faced them back in week 1, some of it's very good defense from Ohio State, but others, we saw how long it took for Texas to get rolling offensively. So you're right. This is the first time that the defense for Ohio State will be challenged. I mean, we've talked about Caleb Downs being bored. He doesn't legitimately get challenged in any of these games. He's just legitimately bored. He might very well be the best player in college football. It's just not able to be put on full display because they don't go up against the type of teams that allow his talent to be put on full display. So that's, if Indiana's legit, we're going to see a lot of things come to fruition on Saturday, which is what I'm excited about. What I don't want to see is either of these teams lose a first-round bye, and I don't want to see either of these teams be seated anywhere below 2 when the rankings come out on Tuesday. If Indiana wins, they're 1. Ohio State should be 2, and if Indiana loses, they should still stay at 2. I don't think they should be punished for losing in a conference championship game unless they get their asses kicked. Then that might be a different story. They just have to hang their own out there.
Right. And I'm glad you went there, because first thing I was going to say was I do think Ohio State's defense is legit, even though they truly haven't been tested yet. I think that will travel.
Yes.
And we will see that similar to what we saw in the playoff last year, where they really weren't kind of challenged going into the playoff last year, and then out of nowhere you saw that run. And then the defense showed up. I think the same kind of thing starts now. And the other thing for Ohio State fans, you should feel just blessed and very happy, because quite honestly, the defense has played vanilla for probably since the Texas game. So Indiana really isn't going to know what necessarily Ohio State's going to be coming out in defensively. And I mean, yeah, Downs is going to be Downs, but what's the rest of the defense going to be? So, but anyhow, but on to your point about what happens with tomorrow night, I'm probably more intrigued about tomorrow night's rankings than I ever have been for any of the rankings that have came out for the last 2 years, and here's why. I truly don't know what they're going to do.
With who?
You have Alabama.
With what?
All of it. Because you got Alabama right now at the 9 spot. Are they really going? So it's kind of going along, kind of piggybacking on what you already brought up. So Ohio State and Indiana lose. I agree with you. Me and you agree that if it's a close game, I don't see either one of them moving. Whoever loses, they should not move. But we've seen crazier things happen with this committee. So right now there's a giant gap between the SEC championship teams. You got Georgia at 3, 4. Then they're probably going to move up because Texas A&M lost. Well, because they had it all set up, because it was 2 Big Ten teams, two SEC teams. Well, then Texas screwed up and they decided to lose. Now Alabama's chilling down here at 9 and 10.
Yep.
Where are they dropping Texas A&M to? Where are they going to move Alabama? It's the chess pieces that they're getting ready to move to set up the final college football playoff rankings next week. Like, basically, if the way you see these chess pieces move is going to be the way that you see them, the way they want this thing to play out come next week. They're going to want Ohio State to win, obviously, and they're going to probably want a close game. So then you got 1 and 2 pretty much thereabouts. You may move Georgia to 2 if Georgia wins or whatever, and kind of fluctuate it there. Who's going to be in the 4 spot? where's Alabama going to be, especially going into Saturday, and if they do win on Saturday? Like that, all of that jumbling, because now with the 12-team playoff, as you well know, we're talking about home field advantage. And you got those games in 2 weeks that are going to be on home sites. Well, if you look at it right now, the way the AP is, and I know that's not correlation, I understand that, but you just kind of like just look at it right now. All the home games will be pretty much at the SEC home sites. And that's very interesting to me. And where are you dropping Texas A&M? Like that's why tomorrow night's rankings, to me, there's a lot of intrigue there just to see the movement that the CFP committee is going to kind of see how much they manipulate it and kind of make it their own. And they have some decisions. As you always say, you want chaos and you want the committee to finally just have to make some decisions. I think this might be that year where you're going to see them have to make some decisions. You got Notre Dame, Miami. That whole decision, what's going on there?
Texas,
Vanderbilt,
Virginia.
yeah, exactly. There's some major decisions, and that, like tomorrow night is going to be setting all of that up. You got teams not playing in the top 10 that, well, they didn't play. Should they drop? Well, I mean, in order to get Alabama up there, there's a lot going on tomorrow night, more than what I think most people are even paying attention to. That's all.
All right, Shaw, appreciate the call as always, man. Thank you. We'll keep an eye on that tomorrow, obviously.
All right, man. Go Blue.
Every time. Go Blue. Give me a break. I'm battling through today, guys. I don't need I'm not asking for sympathy. I'm just letting you guys know why I sound like worse than I normally do. Like normally I don't host a good show. I'm doing an even worse job today because my head is like scrambled eggs right now. I can't even think clearly, but there was no way I was not going to come on the air today, especially after Ohio State gets the win over Michigan for the first time in 4 years, setting up a big-time 1-versus-2 showdown in the Big Ten championship game coming up on Saturday. Now, Dennis Snyder, he weighs in. He's on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page right now. Dennis Snyder says, I agree that they should stay exactly where they're at. Now, what he's agreeing with is what I don't want to see is Indiana lose to Ohio State on Saturday night. And I'm defending Indiana here. If Indiana loses to Ohio State on Saturday night and the final rankings come out a week from tomorrow, I don't want to see Indiana anywhere lower than 2. You should not be punished for playing in a conference championship game. Now, Indiana cannot go out there and get absolutely obliterated. They can't go get, beat by, 21 plus points. They can't go and look like there's a wide gap between them and Ohio State. If they go out there and they lose a one possession, up to a 10-point game and they're competitive, there should be no change at the top. Ryan Day already came out and said as such as well, that you should not be punished for playing in your conference championship game, that both teams deserve the bye as far as that goes. So Dennis says, I agree that they should stay exactly where they're at, which is probably why I wouldn't play any of my starters, but whatever. And I've seen people get lit up on social media for making similar comments like Dennis here. I will never say I disagree with you. I'm just not saying I agree with you. I want to see them go out there and play, but I'm also questioning, what are they technically playing for? Oh, a Big Ten championship. What does a Big Ten championship technically mean? You're already the number 1 and number 2 team in the country. Oh, well, we want to know who's better. That's great. If you're the 1 and 2 seed in the college football playoff, you'll have a chance to meet up in the national championship game. I'm not a fan of conference championship games. I can't stand them. I also don't like when some teams get rewarded for not playing in them. Notre Dame every single year. There are, when you look at the pros and cons list, there are some teams who benefit from not having to play in a conference championship. Texas might have benefited from playing in one. But I think Indiana has a risk of falling out of getting a bye. They've been dominant all season. They've, undefeated. But if they get, blown out, if they lose to Ohio State on Saturday, I hope that they're not punished and are moved out. Now, if they get blown out, that's different. I know I just said that wrong. They get blown out, yes, maybe they deserve to bounce from the 2 spot. But also, who else should be number 2? I don't even know what argument there is for any other team to be sitting in that number 2 spot right now. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. We'll get back into the college football conversations more coming up in a bit. I want to get into that Lane Kiffin stuff to everyone. Lane Kiffin's one of those guys that he's just easy to hate. He's a villain. But what I want to know, actually, we will just quickly, I'll bring this up quick. So Lane Kiffin is a bad guy because he wants to, everyone says LSU is a top 5 job in the country. Ole Miss is a solid job, and he's done a great job there. But if he has a chance to take a job that everyone believes is a top 5 job in the country, why is he being made out to be the villain here? He was set up to fail from the beginning. Now, his reputation doesn't put him in a position to get the benefit of the doubt, so I understand that. But why is he wrong here for taking the LSU job? Well, Justin, he has a team that has a chance to win a national championship this year. Exactly. So my question is, if LSU knows that they're going to get Lane Kiffin, I highly doubt LSU told Lane Kiffin, you have to take the job and take it now. What I'm curious is, who put the timeline on Lane Kiffin in regards to, if you're taking it, you need to take it now? Like, to me, this is one of those where, like, they put a timeline on Lane Kiffin to let them know what he was planning on doing, which means they were trying to get him to sign an extension. He said he didn't want to sign an extension. Then you wait till after the season to reconvene about those. And if he wants to go to LSU, then he goes to LSU. I don't think LSU told him, if you're coming, you need to come now. And I don't think Lane Kiffin wanted to go now. I think this was Ole Miss, and I don't think that Lane Kiffin wanted to tell Ole Miss that he was going there now. Lane Kiffin didn't want this to become about this now. It was forced upon him to make it about it. You need to sign an extension because everyone else is. So if everyone else is signing their extension and you're not, that means you're leaving. You need to let us know what's going on. Lane Kiffin should have just said, this is an off-season conversation. We can have it in the off-season. For right now, we have a championship to go win. Lane Kiffin is being made out to be the bad guy here, and it's easy because he does come across that way. I don't necessarily believe that he wanted this to become a messy situation at this moment. Everywhere he leaves, it's messy. So again, he doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. But think about it. Ole Miss created this problem, not Lane Kiffin. Ole Miss said, hey, how come you're not signing this extension? Everyone else is. Lane Kiffin said, I don't want to sign this extension right now. Oh, so you're leaving. Let's not talk about it right now. Ole Miss made it a thing. Ole Miss made it a thing. Can you imagine? Think back to the last time, to localize this a little bit more. Let's go back to when Archie Miller, his final year at Dayton. We all knew. I mean, Archie Miller never had bad exits like Lane Kiffin did, but we all knew that Archie was not a flyer lifer. All right. I remember when Neil Sullivan came out and said, and it was worded strangely. He didn't say that we were going to make him a top 5, highest paid coach in college basketball. The way they worded it was they presented a package that was going to make him a top 5 or top 10 compensated coach in college basketball. So I'm sure there was a lot of incentives involved. But Dayton basically put that out there to cover their own ass. Like, hey, we did our job to keep him. He didn't want to stay. But imagine if Dayton would have said, Archie, if you're not going to come back next year, you need to make a decision now. You're either with us heading into the NCAA tournament or you're leaving. Like, this is why I'm blaming Ole Miss. Think back to like this. We've been through this before here locally with Archie Miller and Dayton. Dayton tried to give him an extension. He never agreed to the extension. So everyone was like, oh yeah, he's definitely leaving. Imagine if Neil Sullivan and Dayton said, hey, the NCAA tournament's coming up. If you're not going to sign an extension, you need to leave. You need to let us know right now what your plans are. Dayton would have made that messy, but Dayton decided to let's let the season play out and we'll talk about an extension or his future after the season. Dayton let the thing play out, and luckily Dayton, they get to the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, they get ousted in round 1 against Wichita State in Indianapolis, and then they had the conversation. To me, what I'm saying is Ole Miss didn't need to give him the ultimatum of you need to let us know right now what you're doing. Ole Miss is the problem here, not Lane Kiffin. Oh, this is what Lane Kiffin does. I agree, but I'm not going to blame Lane Kiffin for wanting to take a top 5 job in the country. LSU is a top 5 job in the country. Why would he not take it? I'm not going to make him the bad guy there. These players quit on their fans and their teams and their coaches all the time. So we're not going to do this thing where we pretend to care about loyalty all of a sudden. Players don't care about it. I don't care about them. You shouldn't either. So let's not do this song and dance where we're going to hold a coach to a higher standard. Lane Kiffin did absolutely nothing wrong. To me, everyone's talking about, like I saw Dan Orlovsky talk about the calendar and this, that, and the other. No one who forced Lane Kiffin to have to make a decision right now. Because if LSU felt confident that they were going to get Lane Kiffin in the offseason, they would have kind of hit off in the weeds a little bit. You wouldn't have heard a peep from LSU. That's why part of me feels like Penn State right now, Penn State probably has a guy in mind. And the reason that Penn State's been quiet on the coaching front is because they probably have their guy. That guy is probably coaching right now as an assistant or a head coach. And that assistant or head coach is just waiting to make that decision until after the season. I could be wrong, but LSU would have been quiet. If they would have felt confident that they had their guy, they would have let the season play out. Ole Miss gets eliminated. Announce Lane Kiffin's your coach a week later. That's what LSU would have done. I think Ole Miss made this a problem. And Ole Miss is the problem. And they're trying to come out looking like, oh, but they're using Lane Kiffin's reputation against him, in my opinion. And it's also him to blame. But I think back to when Archie Miller was at Dayton. We all knew he was leaving. There was a couple of you goofballs that thought that he was actually going to stay. You could win a lot of games at Dayton. Yeah, that's great. And your guys' obsession with there's 13,000 fans who go to games. That's not why a coach doesn't grow up dreaming of, I want to go somewhere where I can coach in front of 13,000 people. Coaches want to go somewhere where they can win a national championship. That's why I thought it was absolutely hilarious that so many people thought Archie was actually going to stay in Dayton. Now, ultimately, he has not succeeded elsewhere, but that's besides the point. But the way I could compare this to is if Dayton would have told Archie Miller, you need to let us know now if you're not coming back next year, because if you're not coming back next year, we want you to move on now. They didn't. They let it play out, and it was a win-win for both sides. Well, kind of, because you guys got Anthony Grant, and that has not gone as well as what you guys wish it would have. They've actually regressed. They put more players in the league, but they don't nearly accomplish what the whole goal of basketball is, and that's to win in March, but that's besides the point. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show. The point is, I'm Team Kiffin on this. I'm Team Lane Kiffin on this. Lane Kiffin had a chance to go be the head coach for a program that is a top 5 job in the country. He shouldn't be villainized for that. Oh, but he's leaving his team right now in the middle of this, and you're stupid if you think that they should let him continue coaching there. The only reason people knew about the LSU conversation between him and them is because Ole Miss forced his hand. If Ole Miss just let it play out, they would still have a head coach heading into the college football playoff. And also, while we're on this too, I do not think that they should be punished for losing Lane Kiffin heading into the playoff. People tried bringing up, God, who was it? I forgot. I think it was Emmanuel Ocho doing his annoying little take on this about that there's precedent set here. There is no precedent for this. He tried to use Florida State as a precedent that you lose your quarterback and they punish you for losing your quarterback. They didn't punish Florida State for losing their quarterback. They punished Florida State because Florida State, when they did lose their quarterback, they looked like absolute butt for 2 weeks without their quarterback. You don't know what Ole Miss looks like without their head coach. Ole Miss lost their head coach after getting a big win last week. You're not going to see them play a game without their head coach until the college football playoff. So therefore, don't give me the, oh, this is similar to the Florida State thing, because it's absolutely not. It's not. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. Yeah, we'll get back into this Ohio State conversation in a moment. Ohio State, Indiana, 1 versus 2, 12-0 versus 12-0. Vegas respects Indiana. The Big Ten championship game, I was like, we saw this last year where I think Indiana was a 16.5-point dog. So Ohio State, Indiana, when they squared off last year, it was at the Shoe. And Ohio State was a 16.5-point favorite, but it was a top 5 showdown. The College Football Playoff Committee said Indiana is a top 5 team in the country. Vegas said Ohio State's a 16.5-point favorite. And Ohio State covered, and they looked like a legit top 5 team. Indiana did not. So I see this 1 versus 2 showdown, Ohio State versus Indiana, and I'm like, okay, I mean, I get it, but It's weird seeing Indiana at number 2. I don't necessarily believe that they are a number 2 team in the country, but they have a chance to prove it on Saturday. What do you think? 937-518-1410. Do you think that Indiana is a legit number 2 team in the country? Are you buying in on the Hoosiers? Will the Buckeyes have a legitimate game on Saturday night? Vegas respects them. Vegas has Indiana as a 5.5-point dog. That's the closest line that Ohio State has had since the Texas matchup in week 1. Vegas is telling you, Indiana, they're right there with Ohio State. Do you agree? 937-518-1410. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. We'll be right back.